matter who you are, we all have one thing in common on this earth. We all have a home country. Unless you're born in the middle of the ocean or on a plane, but even then, your home country is pretty much where your parents came from, right? Bottom line is, we all have our country where we're from, where our soul is, to where our heart is. That's the situation. Well, actually, it might not be, because a lot of people move, blah, blah, blah. But the bottom line is, we all have a home country. And I've noticed with our home countries, we all like to criticise the hell out of them. We all, for example, I'm from the UK, and British people, we always bitch about our terrible house prices, awful education system, terrible quality of life, the fact that London has too much power, all the power is and money is centralised on the capital city, there's a lot of poverty, blah, 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 blah. And in your country, Sweden, what's some of the problems your country has?
I would say that...
I'll help you out. Begins with I.
No, obviously. It's a bit uncontrolled immigration. We have way too much immigration. Taxes are way too high. And just prices, like gas prices are crazy. Just prices in general, it's very bad.
Yeah, and the reason I mention this is because it's funny. Because all the things I despise about the UK, Sweden does well. And all the things you despise about Sweden, the UK does well.
I wouldn't say you do well with immigration here.
Well, better than over there.
I don't know about that.
Well, I don't know. What's worse, London or Malmo?
That's London for sure.
It's quite a toss-up, really, isn't it? All right, whatever. But most of the things, for example, quality of life. UK houses, I always say the postage stamp size garden, the houses, you can get like, what? The house you showed me in London, £2.5 million for what is essentially like a derelict building. Mm-hmm. You take that exact same house and put it in America, or put it in the north. Oh, your money's worthless when it comes to property. Young people can't get any houses. It's horrendous. Meanwhile, over there in your country, you can buy a house for what?
Yeah, for a lot less. There's a lot of affordable housing in Sweden. Well, of course, it depends on where you want to live. If you want to live in the big cities, it's pricey as well. Not as much as London, obviously, but
yeah, but if you cannot get a house here,
affordable accommodation.
You cannot get a house here for less than 70, like it's less than 70 grand. You can get like a little garage, but a serious house for like even a small size family of like 4 or something. Good luck. It's going to cost you well over £100,000. Meanwhile, over there, I know for a fact because I've seen them. You can get a house for like a 4 people for what, 40 grand.
Well, if you live very rurally.
Yeah, if you live rural, yeah, but the point is you can.
Yeah, you can.
Meanwhile...
But then obviously there will be costs for other things like transportation and stuff like that. And that's one of the downsides with Sweden.
Well, that's what I was going to say. In the UK, if you want to buy something, literally anything, there's a 9 times out of 10 chance it's going to be cheaper here than it is over there.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys can't even get pizza delivery.
Well, that again, Alex, of course we can in the cities, but in... like on the countryside, no, there's no delivery.
No, the vast majority of places you cannot get a pizza delivered.
Unless it's in the city, no.
But here, you could be in the arse end of the Scottish Highlands. I guarantee you could still get a pizza delivered there.
Are you sure about that?
Oh, yeah. And convenient. There's a shop on every street corner. There's doctors' offices, hospitals everywhere. Like, the place is civil. I don't mean civil as in like barbaric versus civil. I mean it's everywhere has been sort of humified.
Yeah, but then at the same time, at night when you look out, the sky is grey. There's not a star to be seen.
Exactly, that's the downside. Because of that, there's so much light pollution. I have not seen a star in about a decade. I remember when I was young and you could look at the sky and it was dark and you could see stars in the sky. And not huge.
Alright, so I guess...
Oh! Oh, Archie, no! Oh, God! Okay, hang on.
Oh
my God, get the fuck out. Archie, get out. Get out.
Why?
Oh, you fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
can you smell that? No, yeah, I mean, here it's not as strong, but he was right next to you. Oh God.
Is it gone? Oh!
Look, somebody has to deal with his freaking anal glass.
Look, that's like sewage. Why do we let him in here?
I don't know.
We shouldn't let him in here when we're doing these. He's too loud. And
yeah, but
Jesus.
look, you can just cut this because we've talked for so long anyway. Well, 5 minutes. Should we take it again?
Can't get over that smell.
Should we do it again, Alex?
Fuck it. Keep going.
Okay.
Oh.
Well,
Wait.
I don't know, but maybe you should say something that is good about your country.
Oh,
What do you like about it?
we need to do something about his fat. Seriously, that's getting out of hand.
Yeah, I told her. I don't
Right.
understand why you don't deal with his anal glands when he goes to the groomer.
Oh my god. Oh. Okay. Right. Anyway, what were you saying?
I said you should probably say what you like with living in the UK.
Well, that's what I was doing. Right. Yeah. Anyway, what was it? I was talking about light pollution, right? Yeah, light pollution. I haven't seen a star in years. Meanwhile, in your country, you tell me we see like these wallpapers of like galaxies and stars everywhere, and you say to me things like, "That's actually how skies look," and I'm looking at you.
Guys, looks.
I'm looking at you like.
Supposed to be like.
Yeah, but I'm looking at you like, no, they're fucking not. They're like these little. They're just like clouds, and it's just like exactly. They're like so. The point I'm saying is, there's a lot of upsides and there's a lot of downsides to where you're from. But when you're in a country, you focus on other countries that don't have those downsides. So in the UK, I crave ownership of property, a lot of land, because the UK has 65 million people and we're a small island. It's like Japan. There's barely any space. Everyone's so cramped, and I crave land. And when I hear about Sweden with cheap house prices and a lot of land, I feel like, I might sign up there. But you, coming from the Swedish perspective, you like that, obviously. But then there's also things like high taxes. Doctors' offices are an hour's drive away. That freaked me out. In order to get to a doctor, you have to drive an hour. For me, I have to walk 5 minutes.
Well, not really. I mean, I can drive 10 minutes to a doctor's office, but if you need something seriously done, like a surgery or something, yeah, then I would have to go like an hour.
Yeah, but the point is, Amazon doesn't exist there. Like, there's no.
Well, we can get Amazon.
Yeah,
Again,
but there's no Swedish Amazon. No. It's like there's all sorts of things. The UK is a great place for business. It's very, very convenient. So the point I'm making is there's good things and there's bad things about every country. But where you're from and where you want to be says, like, you can kind of determine. If you ask someone, if you had a choice, what country would you rather live in? You can kind of tell where they're from. If they say free healthcare, you know they're American. No Canadian's going to say that because they have it, right? But if you say a lot of land, you know they're going to be British, right? If you say
needles in the street,
yeah, if you say low taxes, you know they're going to be Scandinavian, right? Or Norwegian, you know what I mean? So we should probably answer that question ourselves. Yeah. If you could move to any country, where would it be? Now,
and why?
I already know your answer, but go ahead. You've been waiting to say it. Go on.
I would move to Norway.
Why?
Because
it's quite unusual because you're Swedish and Norway's your neighbour, and Norway and Sweden hate each other. So why would you want to move to your rival country?
I don't think we hate each other.
Ask the average Norwegian what they think of the average Swede. I can tell you it's very different than if you ask the average Swede what they think of the average Norwegian.
I kind of see Norway as a better Sweden. Like they have among the highest quality of living.
I hate to say it. It's not how you see it. It is.
Okay, so they have among the highest quality of living in the world. They have really, really beautiful nature. They're a rich country. I don't know. I don't see any downsides. Well, maybe the high taxes, really high taxes.
That's a big downside.
And it's an expensive country, but also you get paid more for working there, so it kind of balances out, I imagine.
Well, the point is that Sweden and Norway have a lot in common, right? You're both Scandinavian countries. You're right next to each other. You were at one point the same country, split away.
And also the language is so similar. So if I studied a bit Norwegian in a year, I could talk it fluently.
But the point is that the country's pretty much the same, except two things. One, Norway has a lot more natural resources like oil than Sweden does. And they unlike the UK, which also had a lot of oil, believe it or not, but unlike us who squandered it and gave it to the elites, Norway's government reinvests it in the people, which is a big plus. But two, the governments are very different. Sweden's government does not look out for its people. It's very globalist. It's very like open borders. It's woke as fuck. It doesn't look after Swedish people at all. You know that better than anyone. Whereas the Norwegian government, I imagine a lot of Norwegians listening to this would say they're certainly not. They're very similar to that. But compared to Sweden, there's a big difference. Like, the Norwegian government might be a little bit woke, but compared to Sweden, it's next level.
They also have a lot more control over their country and stuff because they're not in the European Union.
Exactly, and Norwegians are a lot more independent. I'd say a lot more nationalist, but not nationalist like in the American sense, where they're going around waving flags. I mean, they're proud of their country. They want to look after the resources they have. They don't just want to let anyone in. They're like the Japanese in that way, aren't they? They're like Europe's Japan. That's the best way I would describe the Norwegians. They're a very respectable country, but they basically are just Sweden, but better in pretty much every single way.
Why wouldn't I want to go there?
Yeah, because obviously...
It's still like at home, but better.
And meanwhile, if you ask me what mine was, what's the answer? United States of America. And why is that? And it's very similar
because
answer
it's
to
like UK, but better.
Exactly. It's pretty much exactly the same. We both like our homes in different ways, but we criticise them. Because if you really love your country, you don't just go along with what it says, right? You criticise it because you want it to be better. I mean, I like the UK in so many ways, but when it comes to quality of life and our immigration policy and how centralised the power is in London, and oh God, I could go on forever about my criticisms of the UK, the fact we still have a fucking monarchy in the 21st century. I look at America and I adore it. There's so much land, there's so much opportunity. Yes, America has a lot of problems. Only a fool would deny that. It's not like it's this amazing, flawless place. Of course not. Everyone knows the problems America has. It's been divided, it's been corrupted. The things that corporations can get away with over there is ridiculous, like the food. We watch this series where it's like UK versus US food. You can look it up, and it's like you got a guy from the UK and a guy from the US, and they compare food, like McDonald's, Subway, or whatever.
Yeah, let's just take a fry, for example.
Yeah, like take fries. Fries. In the UK, McDonald's fries are what? Potato, salt, and what is it?
Oil.
Oil. Right, yeah. So that's it. That's what it should be. In America, it looks like an antidepressants ingredient. It's like
30 different ingredients.
But yeah, and it's all to make the product, I assume, tastier, but also, let's face it, cheaper and last longer. And it's like there's no proper food regulations over there. You have like insect parts in jam and shit like that. And it's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? The environmental regulations are an absolute disgrace. You look into Monsanto. Monsanto is a company in the United States, right? And they produce like GMOs for crops. And I looked into this, I couldn't believe it. They got a law passed just for them. So if they cause any environmental damage, it's waived. So let's face this, right? If you accidentally burn a forest down, you're going to get fucked for it. If Monsanto does it, they've got a law protecting them. Something like that. It is ridiculous. The place is so corrupt. But the pros of America are often not understood, especially by the natives of the country. In the UK, for example, we have no freedom of speech here. People think of the UK like this first world developed country. It really isn't. I call it second world. In the north of England where I'm from, it's not first world. But it's ridiculous. There's no freedom of speech. You can get robbed. I have a family member of mine, and they've been robbed multiple times. They call the police. They don't bother turning up. They just ask them if they've got insurance, and then if they do, which they do, they just say contact them. And they don't even bother investigating. Meanwhile, you say a naughty word on the internet or call a woman fat or something, they'll fucking raid your house. Oh mate, what did you say about this politician? This has happened.
You don't pay your TV license.
That's another thing. This is true. Any American listening to this would think I'm taking the piss. I'm serious. We have a license for everything in this country. You know that whole license thing? Where they have a British policeman and they say, do you have a license for that? That's not a joke. You have to have a license to watch television in the UK. It's called not to watch television, to own a television. I'm serious. It's called the television license. Look it up. A lot of people will say, bullshit. Open up, go on Google or DuckDuckGo and type in UK television license. You have to pay the government around £200 sterling or so, which is about $250 for the privilege of owning a television. And that money goes towards the British Broadcasting Corporation, which is a public-funded television station that no one watches anymore, that is completely anti-white, extremely, it's almost like communist. I hate to sound hyperbolic, but it is awful. It is horrendous. No one watches it, and it's a disgrace. And there's so many things that I look at America and I think, can you imagine trying to tell Americans to pay a license for a television? They'd give you the biggest fucking middle finger ever. They'd say, fuck you. You tell an American, the mask thing, right, with Corona. Americans shit the pants about that, right? Like, people go crazy about anything over there. Like, that's one thing I like about Americans. You can say what you want about the US government and how corrupt it is and blah, 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 blah. But in America, there's this perception that the people run the country and the government is the people's bitches. And in the UK, it's always been the other way around. It's always the people are the bitches and we exist to serve the government. And I hate that about the UK. And so, yes, America has a lot of problems with healthcare. It's very divided, blah, 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 blah. But I very much like it for the reasons why I hate the UK.
But I think that unless you were very rich, there is no idea to going to America and trying to live there, because healthcare, I mean, that is such a disaster. If you are in an accident or something.
Well, hang on, I'd say the same about Norway.
No.
I'd say, you wouldn't?
No.
When it costs like $20 for a Big Mac.
I'm not gonna get a freaking Big Mac.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. You have to be rich in both countries in order to survive.
But that's the thing, though. In Norway, if you have just an average job, your salary is higher, so it doesn't matter. Like, it's what you know your friend. She wanted to move to London and be a nurse or something because she thought she could live this luxurious life. What she doesn't realize, that an apartment in London, she would have to pay like $2,000 a month. Yeah, well, it's sort of the same. I mean, in a way, like, you get such a higher salary, so you can afford paying £20 or something for a Big Mac.
Yeah, so it's what you're saying is that it scales out anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, it's such a high quality of living. It's so good in many other ways. Like no crime. That's a lie, but there's a lower crime than in our countries. I just think that it's superior. It's not perfect in any way, but it's superior to
I'll say, I admire both Norway and the United States, despite how very different they are. Because Norway is like a left-wing person's dream in a way, like economically. Like, you've got high taxes, but everyone's got free healthcare, free education, and yet it somehow works. It's not like
the system is really interesting.
That's one way of putting it. But it's not like Venezuela or what some like a conservative person would point at something like that, like Cuba, and say, look, it didn't work. Norway is actually an example where actually this does work. The high tax thing does work. But at the same time, the irony is that's only because they're very strict on immigration and they're not like Sweden. Sweden is the example of what happens when you don't, like, you want that, but you don't actually manage it well. Meanwhile, I admire the United States because it's not like that at all, right? There is no free healthcare. There's no free education, really. I mean, it really isn't sort of every man for himself. But yet, I admire the freedom part of it. I admire the fact you can say whatever the fuck you want. I like the fact that, the government is the bitches and not the other way around.
Well, they're not really. That's just an illusion.
Yeah, but I like the American attitude. I can't describe it, but bottom line is I like both countries, right? I like both countries here. The reason why I think you would pick Norway and I would pick the United States, despite the fact we both admire both countries, is because of where we're from. And when we read the responses from what other people think when we ask them if you could move wherever, where would you go, you will easily be able to identify where that person's from.
Yeah, but I also think that if we just had like an average income every year, it would be a lot better for us to live in Norway. We would be much better off than in America. Because
no, I disagree.
Safety net. If any of us got sick in America, we would just be bankrupt.
Yes, but at the same time, if you want to get wealthy, good luck if the government's taking 50%.
It's such a volatile country, America, because people are so
not recently.
And there's so much crime.
Yeah, but recently, and we all know why that is.
There's always been more crime.
Not necessarily. I mean, yeah, sure, Norway, yeah. Compared to Norway, of course it has, but United States...
You love the cold. Imagine living north in Norway.
Look, I get you trying to convince me live, aren't you? Look, I'm not going to be convinced. I like America for all the reasons I hate Britain. And I admire Norway, and I see where you're coming from, and I get it. But I don't like the idea, no matter what, I don't like the idea of the government taking a shit ton of my income, a shit ton of money, and giving it to other people. I don't like that. At the same time, I don't also like the idea, and I know you kind of can't have both, but I don't like the idea of people not dying of cancer because they can't afford it.
Homelessness in America, and then compare that to Norway.
Yeah, but a lot of the problems, this is going to become like a debate about America now, a lot of the problems America has is to do with outside interference and division. Like, we all know why the United States is divided. Because the Overton window shifted to the left because of Marxist subversion in the 80s and 90s. They took over the educational institutions, the media, the entertainment, and now all the elites who run these things are out of touch with the average person, the working classes, and they're at war with each other now. That's basically what's happened in the United States. But it wasn't always like that. And if you look back at when the United States is stable, it's a fantastic country. It really is.
I agree with you. There's so many things that I like with America. I like freedom of speech. I like the right to bear arms. I like that people are so very patriotic. I like that very much, and I would want that in my own country as well. But, you know, I still think that Norway is better overall.
Well, if you said right now...
my taste. Like, I would prefer Norway.
That's because you're Scandinavian, and that's because I'm British.
Yeah, you're right with that.
That's what I'm saying. But... yeah, honestly, right now, yeah, I'd probably bloody choose Norway right now. I don't listen because look, in America, it's like if you move to a city, you've got a bunch of far left Antifa tards who are just going to break your fucking windows in.
Yeah.
But if then you have to live in the arse end of nowhere in like some desert, you know, like somewhere like Good Springs from Fallout New Vegas. You got to live there if you want to get away from them, and it might be great, but good luck getting an Amazon delivery there. You know, it's like. It's in a difficult spot now, but
I think that if I had tons of money, like millions, yeah, I could probably go to a good state in America.
America's great if you're rich.
Have a safety net for myself if I had that money. So yeah, I could just go to a low crime neighborhood in a state that I thought, you know, politically was more aligned with myself, and I'd be fine.
I'll agree with what you said earlier. Norway's much better if you're poor. That's a no-brainer. America's much better if you're rich. That's a no-brainer. If you're middle class, I disagree. It depends. Depends on the sort of person you are. Because if you're middle class, you have a steady income. If you need healthcare, Norway, obviously, and if you need education, Norway, obviously. But if you're fine with those things and you're an independent person and you're receiving your wage, then obviously the United States is better because there's lower taxes. So it's in the middle there. But it just depends on what you're into. But bottom line is,
pretty good.
They're both pretty good. And look, it shouldn't be a surprise that none of us are picking North Korea here, right? But the bottom line is both Norway, both United States are good, but also our own countries, UK and Sweden, also have great things about them. The point is, pretty much every country, except North Korea probably, even North Korea has some good things, but, not really worth advertising. But the point is, every country has good things about it, and people should take the time to think about what their own country does well and enjoy it. Because if you move to another country, even if you move to the country that you want to move to, let's face it, you would probably miss your home country and what's good about it. But anyway, we asked people about if they could move to any country, what would it be? And so I'm curious, what do people say?
Okay, you asked if you could move to any country, where would it be and why? And Not So Nog 23 said North Korea, no obesity, the highest literacy rate and low COVID cases.
Yeah, and the guy who runs it, he gets 100% of the vote every single time, and he made burgers. I mean, this guy's incredible. Oh, and he was also born on a cloud, I think. You know, and he came from the heavens. So really, that's a
great name, right?
Nah, I don't like his first name. I don't anyway. But yeah, it's like. Yeah, I mean, you'd be insane not to, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Dildo Gang King said, some tropical deserted island. That's not really a country.
Yeah, if you hate people, that's the response you'd give. But yeah, because it's not a country, you can't really comment.
Greenland. Well, it's not tropical, right?
if Greenland's tropical, fucking hell, right, go on.
Tilly00 said Germany because of the health system there.
Yeah, right. You remember what I said earlier where I said you can tell where someone's from based on what they'll say. If you're not American, from either California, Oregon, or Washington, then, I'm wrong. But I guarantee you are. Why Germany? Why not?
Wouldn't you pick Norway?
Wouldn't you pick the UK? We speak English.
Oh, yeah, or that.
Will that make more sense?
Maybe they're like half German or something.
All right. Who moves to a country for the healthcare system? You know what I mean? Like, there's more to it than that.
I don't blame them because some people are really, in a shitty position in America because of the healthcare system.
Oh yeah, look, if you've been fucked by the American healthcare system, I don't really blame you. But realistically, right? There's more than just healthcare, right? Like, if someone said to me, Zimbabwe's got amazing healthcare, I'd be like, yeah, that's great, but I don't want an elephant or like, I don't know, a giraffe knocking down my house at 2 a.m.
I wouldn't mind that.
No, you wouldn't mind that. You'd probably try and make a pet out of them, but anyway, go on.
But Germany is a first world country as well, and there's good things about it, so I don't think that's a terrible...
As a British person, I'm prohibited from saying anything good about Germany.
Sorry. General Relativity said Africa. Honestly, the nature there and the animals, if you're into that
I hate to break it to you.
It's pretty cool.
Africa is not a country. I know this might be hard to believe, folks, but
It's a continent, yeah.
I tell you what, this guy thinks, people, honestly.
I just assumed he means somewhere in Africa.
Yeah, but Africa is not... People think of Africa like the same thing, right? Like I said earlier with the Zimbabwe example, like giraffes and elephants and shit. Egypt is in Africa. People forget that. Like, half of Africa is like Sahara. It's like desert. And half of it is like, the sort of tropical, what you imagine. Africa's not a country, folks. It's one place in Africa. Like, it's like the UK. In the UK where you drive a mile and the accents are different? It's like that in Africa. They've got like 1 million different languages over there. It's a crazy place. So, yeah, okay though.
Jay Cottam said, I would move to America and live in Orlando, close to theme parks like Universal Studios.
Wow. You must fucking really like Disney. Personally, I never thought that would be an answer. But you know what? I'm glad that someone agrees with me about the United States, because America gets way too much shit these days, and it's a great place.
I think that's because what you said earlier, that you're more prone to criticize like your own country, and most people on Reddit are Americans.
Yeah, true.
Daniel Jin said, probably the Netherlands. I'd be shorter and uglier than average, but I'd work hard and get a job as a windmill repairman, ensuring the country stays cool.
That is so specific. I don't even know what to comment on that. Netherlands is a really interesting country. Like, they are legitimately... I've known many Dutch people, and they're always very, very polite. My mother went on like a European trip. I don't know if I've ever told you this. And there's, obviously, you got the Netherlands and you got Belgium, and they're right next to each other. And she said the Belgian people were like the rudest cunts you've ever met. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are some good ones. But she said the Dutch people were incredibly polite, incredibly friendly. She went to the red light district in Amsterdam. It's not a joke. Where they got ladies in windows? They said it was like Blackpool on crack. It was like the craziest place that they've ever been to. But it sounds like hell on earth to a conservative person like myself, but I do admire the Dutch. But why the hell are they so tall? That is true. Dutch people are like, everyone's like absolute. They're giants. Why is that?
I have no idea.
It's really strange.
You trying to read my name said, Japan. The culture is cool and it's advanced tech-wise. Of course, I need to learn Japanese to live there first.
Well, we spoke a lot about Japan and looked into it a lot, and Japan is got to be one of the most interesting countries on earth, but there's a lot of downsides to Japan. Things that, unless you looked into it, you'd never think of. Like, yeah, you got low crime, it's very clean, the people are very civilized, right? It's great. But on the other hand, you got a bunch of weird shit. Like, there's high suicide rates. There's like grown men dressed up as women dancing in the streets to anime music. There's something we were looking at earlier, where the death penalty in China, in Japan, it's still a thing, but it's unlike in the US where you get told that, they get told when they're going to die in advance. In Japan, they get hanged on a random day. Even if they've got pending appeal dates, they'll just get hanged on a random day. You don't know when you're going to die in Japan, and they do it by hanging. So like they are very odd in some ways in Japan. But the things that this is the best way I would describe Japan. The things they do well, they do really well. But the things they do bad, they do really bad. So it's a mixed bag, but definitely somewhere I want to visit.
Yeah, definitely. Million Mail 321 said Australia, because I can't deal with America anymore. It has become a shit show and not even something worth watching.
Yeah, I can understand the frustrations of being in the United States right now, and it's not going to be good in the future for a long time. I mean, America is basically, from my point of view, under attack by outside influences who are clearly brainwashing parts of the population, dividing them against each other. And I've said it before, I've made a broadcast about it, I do think a civil war is inevitable in the United States. After the Civil War, hopefully, things would cool down and America will go back to being the great country that it was for most of the 20th century. But until then, yeah, America is very, very troubled. And this should not be something that... I know a lot of Europeans are envious of America as being a global superpower, because they kind of... especially British people, because they kind of took our place as the global superpower. But you shouldn't celebrate this, because what are the alternatives? China. Like, America does a lot for the world. They make a lot. They fuck up a lot as well. Don't get me wrong. Like, look at what's happened in the Middle East. They do a lot of stupid shit, but it is in, I think, everyone's best interests that the United States goes back to being, an actual great and decent country again, rather than being at war with itself. But it's not going to be good.
Okay, Cheese Army Right said Italy, because I keep my free healthcare and I get to meet mozzarella Ami Right. I don't know what that means.
Probably some food. Italians, they're obsessed with the food. They got all sorts of foods. Is that all of them?
Yep.
Yeah, well, some pretty good responses there. But as I said, you could tell where people are from based on their responses.
I couldn't tell where the first person was from.
What did he say?
He wanted to live in North Korea because of no obesity, high literacy and stuff like that. No COVID cases.
He's a guy in America who absolutely despises fat people, and that's why he wants to go to North Korea, because it's the only place
they have no COVID cases.
There's only one obese person in North Korea, But yeah, bottom line is...
He's chunky.
What the bottom line is, there's pros and cons no matter where you are. Take the time to appreciate where you're from and the good things about it. And don't just fester and linger and say, oh, I hate my country, it's shit. But I'm guilty of this. As I said, I've said in the past, I wish I was from this country, whatever. There's a lot of flaws with my country. There's a lot of flaws with your country, but I guarantee there's a lot of good things about it. What you should do is accept the things that are good about your country and focus on the negatives and try and change them. But don't just toss your entire country's flag in the bin or start shitting on it. And I say this especially to Americans, because there's so much... I see so much anti-American bullshit today. There's so many great things about America, but the Americans they take them for granted. They take the freedom of speech for granted. They assume the rest of the world is like this. It's not like this in the UK. There's no freedom of speech here. They take the right to bear arms for granted. If someone broke in here right now and they had a knife, and I took that knife out of their hands and I stabbed them, I'd be punished for defending my own property. In America, that would never happen. There's so many things that people need to take, that people just take for granted. And sure, if you're from a third world shithole, maybe you have a right to complain there a little bit, especially if you're from North Korea or something like that. But what I'm saying is that the grass is not always greener on the other side. There's always bad things and good things.
You know what's really, really good with being Swedish?
No.
I have an easier time getting a Norwegian citizenship.
Well, that's one thing to celebrate. Shut up about Norway! Fucking hell. That was good.